What are you doing back there?
I have no idea where I am.
The Magic Flute unfolds as a modern fantasy that reimagines a timeless legend through the eyes of a young hero, caught between two worlds. The story blends classical myth with contemporary emotion, creating a film that feels both ancient and immediate. From the beginning, the tone is dreamlike yet grounded, pulling the audience into a universe where music itself carries power and meaning. The film presents a journey not just across landscapes, but through identity, belief, and the quiet courage required to grow into oneself. At the heart of the story is a young protagonist living an ordinary life, unaware that his destiny is tied to a forgotten realm governed by harmony, wisdom, and ancient magic. His world is defined by modern routines, familiar struggles, and the uncertainty of youth. When he is suddenly drawn into another dimension through a mysterious event, the film shifts gears, revealing a hidden kingdom where music is not entertainment but a force that shapes reality. This transition is handled with visual elegance, emphasizing wonder rather than shock. As if this world has always existed just beyond perception, the characters he encounters feel symbolic yet deeply human. A noble prince figure represents discipline, purpose, and the burden of responsibility. A courageous and intelligent princess stands as a symbol of independence and emotional strength, refusing to be defined solely by fate or tradition. Alongside them is a loyal companion who provides warmth and humor, grounding the story with humanity and reminding the audience that bravery often comes from sincerity rather than strength. Each character feels distinct, not as archetypes, but as individuals shaped by fear, hope, and desire. The plot centers on a sacred instrument said to possess the ability to influence hearts, calm chaos, and reveal truth. The magic flute itself is not portrayed as a simple tool, but as a reflection of the user's inner balance. Its power responds not to force, but to intention. As the protagonist learns this, the film reinforces one of its central themes. True power lies in harmony between emotion and reason. This idea is mirrored repeatedly through challenges that test not physical strength, but empathy, patience, and self-awareness. Conflict arises through a shadowed authority that claims to rule through order and control. This force presents itself as righteous and necessary, blurring the line between protection and oppression. The antagonist is not driven purely by evil, but by a rigid belief that emotions are weaknesses to be suppressed. This ideological clash elevates the story beyond a simple good versus evil narrative, framing it instead as a debate about balance, freedom, and the cost of absolute certainty. As the journey progresses, the protagonist undergoes a gradual transformation. He begins as a reluctant participant, unsure of his place and fearful of failure. Through trials designed to challenge silence, trust, and resilience, he starts to understand that growth requires surrendering ego. These moments are portrayed quietly, often without dialogue, allowing expressions, music, and atmosphere to carry emotional weight. The film trusts its audience, letting meaning emerge naturally rather than through explanation. The relationship between the prince and the princess becomes one of the story's emotional anchors. Their bond is built not on destiny alone, but on shared struggle and mutual respect. They challenge each other's perspectives, exposing fears and doubts while encouraging growth. Their connection reinforces the idea that unity is not about sameness, but about understanding differences. Love in this world is portrayed as a source of strength rather than distraction. Visually, the film embraces contrast. The modern world is depicted with muted tones and structured environments, while the magical realm bursts with color, light, and organic movement. Fire, water, stone, and sound are used symbolically, reflecting the emotional states of the characters. Music flows through every setting, sometimes subtly in the background, sometimes as the driving force of entire sequences. These musical moments feel integrated into the narrative rather than staged, reinforcing the idea that sound itself is a living presence. The pacing of the story allows space for reflection. Instead of rushing from one spectacle to another, the film pauses to let moments breathe. Silence becomes as important as music, reinforcing the theme that wisdom is found not only in action, but in listening. This deliberate rhythm gives the story a meditative quality, inviting viewers to engage emotionally rather than passively consume events. As the climax approaches, truths long hidden come into the light. The supposed boundaries between light and darkness, good and evil, begin to dissolve. Characters once seen as enemies reveal vulnerability, while allies are forced to confront uncomfortable realities. The magic flute plays a crucial role here, not by overpowering opponents, but by exposing inner conflict. The resolution is achieved through understanding rather than destruction, emphasizing reconciliation over victory. The film's release positioning suggests an experience meant for both younger audiences discovering fantasy for the first time and older viewers drawn to deeper symbolism. Its tone balances accessibility with thematic depth, making it suitable as both a visual spectacle and an emotional journey. The story does not rely on constant action, but on atmosphere, character development, and philosophical undertones that linger after viewing. The trailer moments implied within the film's structure focus on sweeping visuals, moments of musical intensity and emotionally charged exchanges rather than plot exposition. Glimpses of magical trials, soaring melodies, and quiet moments of doubt create intrigue without revealing outcomes. This approach frames the film as an experience to be felt rather than solved, inviting curiosity rather than offering answers. By the final act, the protagonist stands transformed, not as a conqueror but as a bridge between worlds. He carries lessons learned through hardship, understanding that maturity is not about certainty, but about balance. The ending avoids excessive celebration, choosing instead a quiet sense of resolution that feels earned and reflective. The magic does not vanish but integrates into life, suggesting that wonder exists wherever openness and compassion are allowed to thrive. The Magic Flute ultimately presents a story about harmony in a fractured world. It speaks to the fear of growing up, the challenge of choosing one's own path, and the importance of listening to others, to nature, and to oneself. Through its blend of fantasy, music, and emotional storytelling, the film invites viewers to reflect on the kind of balance they seek in their own lives. Rather than delivering a simple message, the film leaves space for interpretation. It encourages audiences to consider whether strength lies in control or understanding, whether silence can be as powerful as sound, and whether magic is something inherited or something discovered within. This openness gives the story lasting resonance, allowing it to be revisited with new meaning over time. In its final impression, the Magic Flute feels less like a traditional fantasy adventure and more like a modern myth. It honors the idea that stories passed down through generations endure because they evolve, adapting to new voices and new questions. The film closes not with an ending, but with a continuation, a reminder that journeys of self-discovery do not conclude, they simply change form, carried forward through memory, music, and the courage to listen.